Hi, good afternoon. I'm very happy to be here. I'm here to talk a bit about what the next generation of gaming is going to look like with respect to utilization of the blockchain. So Animoca Brands is Cyberport's latest unicorn company, and it focuses on digital asset ownership, and therefore the crypto market that underlies it, and right away, today is a pretty hot market, right? But let me get into it. Animoca Brands is a fast-growing company in 2021, and you can see many accolades about it. And the latest round is $2.2 billion, and lots of investor interest. And just a bit of history. Animoca has sort of begun as a regular gaming company focused on App Store games, and over time, it pivoted it into blockchain, and in about 2017-18, it began distributing for Dapper Labs on CryptoKitties, right? And CryptoKitties, as some of you would know, under the blockchain, has fetched hundreds of over $100,000 per cat, and thereafter we have made a bunch more acquisitions in Surf Sandbox, obviously Dapper Labs, Axie Infinity, Sky Mavis, and we also invest in infrastructure companies such as Flow, such as Immutable X. So we actually invest into the infrastructure that underpins the gaming universe. So in terms of what we do, we think of ourselves as operating, investing, and innovating, sort of like the three pillars. The two things that we do is operate and invest. So on the right side of the chart, you could see that what we do is that we have operating companies. So we have actually more than 6 right now. But what we do is that we find we are either self-develop the game or we acquire them, and we tokenize the assets through NFT, and we operate it, right? So typically, game developer would self-develop games. But what we do is that we do both, right? We self-develop, and we also go to find companies that we believe have great potential, and we insert the blockchain brain to it. So that's the operating side. In the investing side, we actually invest in about 100 companies, and it's across the value chain, right? So if you look at just gaming and blockchain gaming, we also do along that side, along the value chain, there's also marketplaces, decentralized finance, crypto wallets, infrastructure, et cetera. Because we believe, ultimately, how we're going to advocate for Web 3.0 is not just to do it ourselves. We're trying to invest in a space so folks that are developing along this ecosystem can get to grow with capital. Just a bit on blockchain, so that at least we talk about it for those of you who might be less familiar. In Web 1.0 and 2.0, we're talking about just data. And data, when I was very young, it's just, well, we just copy, right? And information is all the same. But right now, we're talking about blockchain, right? Blockchain means that data exists in decentralized ledgers, right? So it's genuine, it's immutable, it's unhackable, and therefore that enables true digital asset ownership, which is ultimately what Animoca is about. If you look at what information was in Web 1.0 and Web 2.0, now we're at Web 3.0, what we're talking about is enabling true Internet of value. Because once you can own assets within that ecosystem, everything changes, right? The sword that you have, the gun that you have within any regular free-to-play game or console game is not owned by you, right? The skin that you have and all the upgrades that you have, the money spent in those games, they are not owned by you. But with respect to what we do, is that we're trying to enable that true digital asset ownership through the blockchain. That's our core philosophy. And under that, then you take true ownership. And what happens is that your engagement level, our gamers' engagement level, becomes completely different. So again, just Web 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0 is really now about building on open codes. So it's open composability. We're talking about trustless, meaning you can just trust the system. The blockchain itself is the computer. And we're talking about permissionless. So you no longer have to rely on platforms to control your lives. It's not about their rules. It's about what you want to compose. What you want to compose, the creativity that you have, and it unlocks the engagement in the world that we have. And to us, that's what the true metaverse is about. It's not about the closed systems of Web 2.0. We're talking about Web 3.0, you truly own it. So the rise of non-fungible tokens, what we talk about in the media is sort of what's happening in crypto and also what's happening in NFTs, right? So fungible tokens are the tokens that you see like Bitcoin, like Ethereum, et cetera. They're divisible. Non-fungible tokens are actually assets, right? So CryptoKitties is one of them, and non-fungible tokens are actual assets that you can own virtually. And just to step back a little bit, if we look at what are the most valuable companies in the world right now, they're all data companies, right? So data is what it is today, what it was oil in the 20th century. But what actually happened in the data space is that you have these platforms that has arisen on top of these, and that become sort of data monopolies, right? So the likes of Amazon, Facebook, Google, et cetera, they actually mine the data that you create, that we all create, from the moment we wake up to the moment we actually go to sleep. What actually happens is that you're actually creating data. That data is mined, and that data that's owned by you might not be available to you in its own singular form. But when combined with everybody else's data in this room, in Hong Kong, in Greater China, rest of the world, then the data company makes sense of it. And what then happens is that it comes back to become goods and services, right? It's sold back to you, right? And the data is extracted from you for free, much like oil in the past. Now the data is extracted out, and then it comes back to you, and you're paying for it, right? So in a way, it's sort of something out of nothing, right? Now in Web 3.0, and Animoca's mission is to turn this on its head. The data that you create is what you own. And therefore, the composability layer and what we do in games and metaverses that we invest into are truly owned by you. So when you look at sort of what we talk about, some of the most hated big tech around the world, you can see very familiar names, right? Why they hate it? Because it's a big monopoly. What actually happens in creation of data, manipulation of data, when that gets sold back to you, is that it benefits the platforms, right? Everything that you do upon it, everything that you engage in it can be seen as entertainment, but ultimately it enriches the platforms. That's why they grow and grow and grow. Nothing wrong with it, but that's not what we're looking for in Web 3.0. If we look at one of the things that we've gotten the metaverse very viral is Facebook's announcement to become Meta. Now, in terms of how Facebook sees the metaverse, it's sort of a singular way of looking at sort of virtual reality, sort of how you interact with it. It's a very immersive experience, right? But the way we look at it is that that's just one aspect of the metaverse. In the metaverse that we see, it already exists today, right? It existed many years ago, in fact. It's sort of in Second Life and other kinds of games that you have. Roblox is a kind of a metaverse as well. What we're actually building today is something that is actually wider and more participative, right? So in terms of Facebook's metaverse, The platform is going to be according to Facebook's rules. The ownership is Facebook. The composability, in terms of what you can build upon it, is under platform rules as well. Interoperability, again, within Facebook. Can you take your assets freely in and out of Facebook? Very unlikely. Tradability, can you sell your assets within Facebook? Not really. If they enable it, it'll be within Facebook's rules. What are we then talking about? We're talking about blockchain gaming, which is true property rights. So there's true ownership because it's under the blockchain. It is freely composable. Therefore, it's tradable, and there's value. And by the way, you're not talking about Animoca marketplace. You're talking about third-party platforms like OpenSea, any other platform. You can take your assets in there. You do not need our permission because it's under blockchain. We don't control it. And therefore, it's also secure and immutable. There's interoperability. And the way we look at our assets is that we'll look at you can take your assets out and operate it amongst different ecosystems that we have, and even ecosystems outside of Animoca's development. Now, in terms of open assets, what is composability important? Because ultimately, when you own something, you tend to do more to it, right? So let's say a car, in the physical world or in the digital world, if you own it, you can put certain logos on it, you can change the seats, you can change the livery, and whatnot. It's completely different from what we're used to in the old gaming. And also, what digital asset ownership enables you to do, which is getting harder and harder today, is play to earn, right? And this is a real example. We actually have been following what people have been posting on Twitter, etc. So it is in the Philippines, and in some rural areas of the Philippines, there are more crypto wallets than there are credit cards, because people are earning a living based on playing games, like Axie Infinity. There are guilds, like those guilds that buy assets, digital assets, and then hire people to play the games in order to earn. So some of these folks are actually earning enough to have a supplementary income, sometimes even main income. And that's the Philippines. This particular person was playing F1 Delta Time on Animoca's platform, and actually was earning so much money that his first down payment for his house was earned via playing games. Now, that's new, right? Because that's about engagement. That's about asset ownership. So what is our purpose? First, it's about working on and building an open Web 3.0. Animoca does not seek to dominate, meaning that we're not here to build another Google or Facebook. What we're here to do is to facilitate, use our, hopefully, intellectual power, brain power, and our philosophy to then build an open Web 3.0, the one that we want to see. Not the way the one Web 2.0 transpired with social media giants and platforms. We want to see an open web that's owned by everyone. Secondly, we want to positively transform how our next generation will live and work. We believe that ultimately there are a lot of jobs that might go away in the future because of technology. But within Metaverses, there's certainly employment. For instance, if you like to paint the house in Roblox, which is what my daughter likes to do, why don't you paint the house on Sandbox, where that house is actually owned by someone, and that someone actually wants you to paint that house because it's valuable for him or her, and you get paid for it, right? This is what digital asset ownership enables. Thirdly, we want to reward creativity and time, find meaningful jobs living and working in a metaverse, what I just talked about. And then delivery of shared value, right? Creating shared value is not a new concept. It's a Harvard Business School concept that we actually subscribe into. We're no longer in this world. In today's environment, in today's business world, it's no longer maximizing shareholders' value. While it is important to return value to shareholders is not the only thing. There are also participants along the metaverse, suppliers, stakeholders, and also those who participate. We will only prosper if the community prospers. So we focus incessantly on delivering value to our community. And lastly, what we want to do is to deliver it in a sustainable manner, because all companies in the future will need to do that, pay attention to the planet. Now, these are major projects around the world. I won't go into many of them, but there are like 8 to 10 that we're working on. There's not even an updated slide. So it's from racing to metaverse to hyper-casual to science fiction to tower defense to collectibles. But we're still acquiring more portfolios. One of the ones, and I'll end with this, that we're working on is Phantom Galaxies. There's already a very large Discord following, as well as a large community on it. And this is the future of what we see. These are the assets you can see, and you can own these, and therefore, the engagement level would shoot up to a completely different level. And this is of AAA quality. Can we get to the video to play? Volume. So Phantom Galaxy is going to launch shortly. In fact, connect your wallet. Some free NFTs have been dropped. Collect them. This is going to be large. Thank you very much.